being able to be skillful and to be who you are authentically, that to me is a way to move through organizations. Because when you can be the person who does that and you unleash other people to be free for themselves and to do their best work, those are people who get promoted.
Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the tie to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. We're going to go today through her journey and drive some new entrepreneurial lessons. But let's meet our guest. Molly, thank you for joining.
Thomas, it is a pleasure, and I do hope people will continue to tune in after today's episode.
Introduce yourself and just, set the stage or set the table, so to speak, for the conversation.
Well, I think the fastest way to get to know me is through my passion and purpose statement. And in one word, my passion is ignite. And with heart, creativity, and compassion, I inspire myself and others to have the courage to be true to ourselves, dream big, and harness the wow power of us so that together we're a force of nature and anything is possible.
What are you doing with this podcast and who are you helping? And I think we know why.
This thing came out of nowhere, and I have to do a shout out to my dearest mentor and idol and honorary father, Marshall Goldsmith, #1 executive coach in the world. And Marshall really modeled just being in service to others. And he was giving away everything he knew for free because he's in his 70s and he had kind of already done it all. And so that idea of really helping people resonated. And so I saw through decades of corporate life how people at work weren't speaking up and saying what they really thought needed to be said. And I just find that like it's a work injustice. Whether you went to community college or you went to Harvard or you went to Oxford, I don't think you kind of grew up to go to work and be a mute or to kind of say, well, I think I need to say what other people want to hear. And I mean, some people have really groomed themselves to a life of that. And that's just a bummer because that's not how we're going to get the best answers. It's not how we get to what I call an accurate shared reality, because that's essential to make the best decisions, to execute with speed, and to get to our greatest outcomes. And we all see things differently. You say something, I have my reality, you have yours. We both think we're right? But if they're different, they can't both be right. And so often people aren't able to voice their different points of view or what I call disconnects. And so that idea of authentically saying what needs to be said, I was just like, this has to happen. And it turns out it's a little bit of a superpower of my own, which is hilarious for all those listeners, because I did not speak English until I was 5, painfully shy, like super painfully shy. So the ability to communicate positively and productively, regardless of situation, is something you can learn. And I think a lot of people out there actually, well, I could never tell my boss, or my boss doesn't want to hear it, and I'm like, okay, let's unpack that, right? So I would offer that there's some limiting beliefs out there. So the podcast started with people calling in, just asking Molly, how do I say this? And literally, like you call your best friend, oh my gosh, I had this tough conversation, what do I say? And then I realized, Thomas, my own growth was to be able to feel that it was important to speak up and say it. You had to be really grounded in yourself. And so many leaders, and they're great people out there, and maybe some of you are listening, you're super smart, you're very experienced, you have amazing industry background, but maybe not as grounded in our own selves as we could be. And if we're not, it's hard to really put ourselves in other people's shoes. So I think the opportunity for me was featuring folks who I thought really struggled, who were willing to share the struggles and the tough stuff, not to glamorize it, but just to make it real, to help people appreciate that even your most successful people, whether they were NBA or NFL or country singer, stars, right, legends, everybody had tough stuff. So to have the courage to go into it, to talk about it, to help people show that you could come out better on the other side became a feature of the podcast. And it really helped me grow. I started when Black Lives Matter and there was anti-Asian sentiments during COVID. I thought this is not right. And so I invited those voices to the show because I think we could use more empathetic understanding of what it's like for each other. And so the ability to hear some of the stories and what other people go through, not to dramatize it, Thomas, not trying to have anyone feel sorry for anyone, but to be able to just say, wow, that is a very different experience.
People remember you for what you gave, not what you have. People remember like, oh, that guy had so much money. They're like, oh, that's great, but he gave this and he gave that. What's the one maybe thing that inhibits people from taking a step towards the ability to be them? I guess I'd say be able to speak freely and speak their mind and do it away. What's the one really inhibiting trait?
I think a big part of it is the fear, because I do think that, and when I say fear, not that it's not safe, because I think most places are safe. Yes, there are those that aren't, but I think most really genuinely are. But that whole psychological safety, which is absolutely essential, is overrated, because I can give that to you in 75 minutes with a total group of strangers, right? So I think the fear of looking bad, being wrong, offending someone, those are all real. But you think about looking bad. Okay, so is it about you? Right? How do you say something that's, you don't look bad, you look stupid? No one wants to look stupid. I'm putting this out there because it might be helpful for the team XYZ, right? As opposed to this, I think this is super right. You may not be right, but you have to find a way to onboard into a conversation with an idea without making it so black and white. And I think that in American business in particular, there's this big macho, right, raw, and I'm like, okay, I mean, we could be that way, or we could say, hey, I see it. Let me offer a different angle. Maybe it's completely wrong, but folks, even wrong information will spur the cognitive thinking of a group, right? So that people are better for it. So I say, hey, I may be wrong. I'm sorry if I feel like I'm jumping in. This is driving me crazy. Be transparent about it. If we're always trying to serve the whole, as opposed to make Molly look better, well, let me jump in. So this smartest person in the room thing kills me. You're like, oh my God. When you're in those kinds of rooms, you're like, I do not have time for this. Okay? Because we really want to serve the whole, whatever the larger mission is. Group, it's not about me or you.
Who should listen to your podcast? Who should contact you? And then if you need help, how and who should they contact? How should they do that with you?
So I think all professionals who want to be grounded in themselves and be inspired by amazing folks. And I've had literally superstars on the show. I've had a 17-year-old who's gotten through dyslexia. I had a young man who shared a story, having literally been in jail, on the run from the police. I mean, so I think it gives a chance to see a lot of different lives. So you can hopefully be better and have more empathetic understanding for folks' lives who are very different than yours, and at the same time find inspiration in people who are really willing to be real. And I really wanted to create community for people because being real is great. We don't want you to go to work and try to be someone else. Being real in an authentic way that also serves the whole. I mean, we can't just all randomly run around. We're in a society where we're interconnected. So, I say that with folks realizing that it isn't just totally wild. You can't just have it your way. But when we can understand each other and work better together, like the upside is huge, And I think I really do envision this world where people win as one, right? We work together to make good ideas great, let go of what doesn't serve us. And, we can create extraordinary value and meaning in work and life. So it's just, and I know organizations exist that are like that. There's some folks who are listening now in their heads. There's a lot of folks thinking, well, gosh, they can't be. I'm like, yeah, it is. And everybody here matters, folks. I mean, I got to tell you something. Everyone's got a car. We have different levels. I'm not pretending that people don't have more or less influence, but I do want each listener to really feel like they matter. And if you can have the courage to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is a must for trust. We want everyone to trust us, but we have to extend trust. That's going to help, things move along. And, everyone here can be a positive force for change, for sure, And by the way, so this idea, you've never been promoted, but being able to be skillful and to be who you are authentically, that to me is a way to move through organizations. Because when you can be the person who does that and you unleash other people to be free for themselves and to do their best work, those are people who get promoted.
Who was your number one favorite interview? If, say, a very memorable.
After every single guest, I was a better person. So I just want folks to appreciate that when you start to have a conversation with someone, you're thinking, and then all of a sudden the person is way more than you possibly could have imagined. Dr. Jim Kim, who at one point was president of the World Bank, has saved, 10 or 20 million lives. Extraordinary. Bob Roth was just on my show, and he's the head of the David Lynch Foundation on Transcendental Meditation, and is an epic story. Dave Clark is disabled guy, played in the minor leagues of baseball. I mean, had polio. I mean, just they're extraordinary. I mean, Graham Weaver is head of a PE firm, and Graham, I was crying laughing so hard because he listened to self-help tapes. He was just brainwashing himself. Sandy Ogg is another one. I mean, they're just epic.